anyone else smell copper? Ah, it's the Witch Elves. That explains a lot. Yep, we're back to the old world, looking at the Brides of Khaine, whose favourite activities involve drinking blood, bathing in blood, and filling cauldrons in blood. Yeah, hence the, copper scent. Still, let's see how they fared throughout the old world's lifespan, starting with 4th edition. So, they're coming in at 12 points a model, movement 5, weapon skill 4, lit skill 4, strength 3, toughness 3, runes 1, initiative 6, attacks 1, leadership 8. And they need at least 5 models in the unit. Equipment-wise, they're coming with 2 hand weapons, and they are allowed light armor for 2 points a model, if you really think a 6+ save's gonna help them. Standing musicians are 24 points, and they are allowed to take magic ones without any issues. Special rules, well, they've got a few. First off, being Dark Elves, they hate High Elves. So they have the hatred special rule when fighting them. They're also frenzied, so they get some extra attacks, but you do need to make sure they don't run off to stab something you don't want. Finally, their weapons are poisoned, which then means they get +1 on strength when making any attack. So that's the core Witch Elf unit. What about characters? Well, they had champions and heroes. The champions were 62 points, movement 5, weapon skill 5, lit skill 5, strength 4, toughness 3, runes 1, initiative 7, attacks 2, leadership 8. They must have the same equipment as the Witch Elves they're with, but they're allowed 1 magic item. Special rules, they're the same. The hero, meanwhile, 132 points, movement 5, weapon skill 6, lit skill 6, strength 4, toughness 4, runes 2, initiative 8, attacks 3, leadership 9. They're much more customizable, coming with a sword base, and allowed anything from the Dark Elves armory, along with 2 magic items. Mounts, they're allowed some. A cold one for 10 points, a dark steed for 3 points, and any of the monsters from the Dark Elf roster list. Special rules wise, it's still the same. So yeah, Witch Elves, bar the hero really, came in with a decent number of attacks, but lacking armor. So good for tearing light armor units to ribbons, but tend to just bounce off and die to anything heavily armored, and yeah, they can't take the damage back much. So, we're off to 6th edition next, as they didn't have anything in 5th, and bang, model update. Now, what about their stat line then? Well, they've gained +1 weapon skill, which is nice. They've also moved to the special section in units of 10 or more, and now coming in at 13 points a model. Equipment is still 2 hand weapons, and the light armor option's already gone. Now, musician is 6 points, standard is 12 points, and a magic standard still allowed, but now comes with a 50-point limit, which was fairly standard. Such rules? Well, they're still frenzied and hate High Elves. They now just have poison attacks, giving them the poison attack special rule, so no more +1 strength. They are also the devotees of Khaine. So, bar assassins, no character can join them. As the book states, it's not that they don't trust the Witch Elves. Well, actually it is. I do miss that sort of witty writing in the books. Their champion is now the Hag for 12 points, getting +1 attack to the stat line, and allowed 25 points of items from the new Temple of Khaine. Now, this was available to the Hags and the Assassins, and some of them were more than 25 points, so the Hag couldn't get access to them, so we'll just look at the ones they could have access to. For poisons, Manbane is 25 points, and the Hag always counts her strength higher than the target's toughness to a maximum of 6, so if they were toughness 4, she'd be strength 5. This would also affect save modifiers. Black Lotus is 25 points, and each wound a model suffers from one model of Black Lotus, all their stats, bar movement, are reduced by 1 for the rest of the game. Dark Venom is 10 points, and it grants poison attacks. You can definitely tell that one is meant for the assassin and not the Hag. Then, for artifacts and skills, well yeah, sadly, 2 of the options here the Hag can't afford, but here are the ones she can. Rune of Khaine is 25 points, and grants +1 attack, but must always pursue fleeing enemies. The Hand of Khaine is 25 points, and forces a model in base contact with the Hag to lose 1 attack in combat. Models immune to psychology are unaffected, and if they're on a mount, the Hag has to choose the character or the mount. Rich Brew is actually unique to the Hag, 25 points, and enemies can't get a +1 combat resolution bonus for outnumbering flanking, rear attacks, or high ground against the Witch Elf unit. Cry of War is 10 points, and a unit charged by the hags must pass a leadership test or have their weapon skill reduced by 1. So yeah, the Witch Elves themselves have basically stayed the same. The main change is their champion, becoming a lot more unique with the Temple of Khaine equipment. So, off we go to 7th edition. The Witch Elves are now 10 points, and stat line, they've gone back to being a weapon skill 4. The unit size is also 5+ again. The equipment has not changed. The musician is now 5 points, standard 10 points, and they are still allowed magic ones, but it's now only 25 points. The hag is 10 points to upgrade, still got the +1 attack, and still allowed 25 points to the Gifts of Khaine, which does still price them out of some options. Also, some are the same and some have changed, so quick rundown. The Rune of Khaine is still 25 points, but it now gains D3 attacks each round of combat. Nice. Witch Brew hasn't changed. The Hand of Khaine is the same, but it's now 15 points. Cry of War is still the same. Manbane is still the same. Black Lotus is now 20 points and allows reroll rune rolls of 1. And Dark Venom is still 10 points, but each wound caused by the hag is doubled for working out combat resolution. What about special rolls? Well, frenzied and poison attacks are still kicking about. The character rule is now Khainites, so they can only be joined by Khainite characters. Dark Elves in general have internal hatred now, so hate everything. But versus High Elves, all missed close combat attacks against them, no matter the round of combat, can be re-rolled, not just the first round. So yeah, if anything, it's more refinement this edition. Still pretty solid. Now, 8th edition is here, and they've got some new models, and they've become a core choice. That's nice. They're now 11 points a model in units of 10+, and no stat change yet. Now, equipment. The Witch Elves haven't changed. The Hag Musician is standard all 10 points now, but the Hag has suddenly lost access to her unique Temple of Khaine stuff. That's gone to characters only now. The Magic Standard is still around though, and it could be 50 points again. So, special rules. Well, they hate High Elves again, and frenzied as usual. The poison attacks are still here, but they now have Always Strikes First, a very nice buff given to the Dark Elves. And also they have Murderous Prowess, letting them reroll runes of 1. So hey, you know, Black Lotus has just applied to them now. They also have a new rule, Madness of Khaine. Good news, Dark Elf Noble! You can join the Witch Elves as a hero choice now! Yay! Just note at the end of each Dark Elf turn, if there's a non-Khainite hero, like an Assassin or Death Hag in the unit, you need to roll d6, and to 1 to 3, the Witch Elf stabbed them d3 times. Oh dear. Yeah, the Hag losing her armory is sad, but becoming core is a nice payoff. Also, it is kind of funny that they allow non-Khainite characters to join them, but there's a chance the Witch Elves lose it and might just stab them to death. Still, now we get to the old world. And sadly, it's the legends for the old girls, as right now the Dark Elves have no book. Still, they're back to being a special choice, 11 points a model, and they've lost an initiative, so down to 5. They also come in squads of 10+. So, equipment-wise, has it changed? No, it's still 2-hand weapons. The standard Magician and Hag are all 7 points. The Hag still gives +1 attack, and they're still allowed to match standard worth up to 50 points. So, what about special rule-wise? Well, global-wise, we've got Close Order, Frenzy, Hatred to High Elves, Horde, Loner, and Poison attacks. Some unique ones for them. Elven Reflexes grant them +1 initiative on the first round of combat, which is something. They also are Murderous, which still lets them reroll runes of 1 in combat. So yeah, they go back to special, but otherwise, not really that changed, other than the initiative one, which does feel a little odd, as it means for the first round of combat they're back to how they used to be, but then they're slightly worse off. But yes, that is the Witch Elves. Most of the changes to them really came in the form of special rules, and the Hag, really. Otherwise, it really came down to the poison changes from 4th to 6th, and then GW was clearly happy with them design-wise and left them as they were. Always kind of nice to see that.